Welcome to Mary and J.O.A. Thanks for stopping by during the busy season of the holidays. Merry Christmas, everyone. This is my Christmas special for 2015, or as I like to call it, the Christmas Spectacular. This year's a little different. This year's actually a special that I came up with a while back. I've been wanting to do this actually the past few years. Decided to do it this year. This is my Christmas memories, Christmas morning memories of video gaming. Let me explain. So, I have a lot of video game systems, probably everyone, import, rare, whatever, old, new, handheld, and a lot of them I actually got, for the first time at least, I got at Christmas morning. It's a tradition in our family. Even up into my 30s, you know, it's been a tradition to get something video game-ish during Christmas. As far as I can remember, as far as I was a little tyke when I first got into it, when I was able to crawl. When I was born, I had an Atari joystick in my hand. It was crazy. You got to see the pictures from the hospital. But this is actually the best of my Christmas memories, because what happened was I had a list, and it was like 20 miles long. And I would have been here in like 3-4 parts, and I didn't want to bore anyone. So what I did was I took a list, and I took the best of the best. So if there's a system on here, it's probably not that it happened during Christmas or whatever, but there wasn't really a story behind it. These all kind of have a story behind them. So it is a tradition at Christmas time to get a video game system. And I have gotten it for my birthday and during the summer and just regular, everyday, you know, regular day of the year. But most of them were for Christmas, and these are the stories behind them. It's kind of interesting. These are in no particular order. I'm doing this because a lot of people on Twitter actually ask me, Sean, you know, what's the story behind that? I know you always said you had a story behind it. Here's to answer all of you in one video. So again, Merry Christmas 2015 Christmas Spectacular. All right. Again, I started off with I made little notes, and I know how to elaborate on them. So, first one says, very young, Atari 2600. I was very young. My father surprised me with an Atari 2600 that he purchased from a yard sale. The guy had invested in it, and they just weren't into it. The family wasn't into it. His son was very miserable, bratty, horse-faced boy, and he said, you know what, that's it. You know, your grades, you're getting F's in school. My dad was able to get the whole lot from a really good price. I got extra joysticks. I got all kinds of cartridges, asteroids, kaboom, a whole box full. And that's what really got me into video games, and I would play that for hours, and I was like, you know what, I am hooked. I am in it for life. It's that kind of a thing. And I remember Christmas morning, my entire Christmas, like all my Christmases, were just spent with the system. And uncles and aunts would come over, and I didn't even know if they were alive or dead, basically. I was in the living room on my little black and white TV at the time, playing Atari 2600. So that was fun times. Good times, good times. The Sega Master System, a Christmas to remember, a loving memory. Because I remember my dad surprising me with the Sega Master System because I had wanted it for so long. And I just remember giving him like the biggest hug. It was really a loving, touching memory. Good times on that system. So this is actually really cool. This is one of, out of all these that I wrote down, this is actually the number one that I remember. One of them. The NES. The system that really blew my mind. Matter of fact, well, okay. I wrote a little thing to say about this in this story, but I'm going to paraphrase it. Basically what happened was, I've been wanting this system for the longest time. My cousin had gotten it. Mind-blowing. I mean, it was like mind-blown again. Like, you heard the story about the Atari 2600, how I was like in it for life. This was triple. This is when I knew I was like, oh my God, this is what I was born to do in life. Aside from photography, but from a hobby standpoint, I was like, this is what I want to be into. This is what I want to do. And it was, well, let's see, it was Super Mario Brothers 3. He was playing. Mind blown, like mind blown. I was like, this, and that game later became my favorite game of all time, basically. To wrap this up. And Christmas morning, they were extremely hard to get at the time, and Christmas morning was funny. It was just like Ralphie in the Christmas Story, if you remember that, with the Red Ryder BB gun. And we're sitting down, and my dad's like, hey, what's that over there, laying up against the TV? Laying up against the TV over there, what is that? Why don't you go check it out? And my mom's like, what is it? And my dad's like, well, Santa probably left it. And I opened it, and it was the NES. And I'll never forget, ever. And I remember at the time, my dad had one of the very first people to actually have a conversion van with a TV in it. Now, mind you, this is in the NES days, but it was like the old TV, like with the VCR. And when the back seat, we had like a whole thing that came out, it was like in wood. And it had the VCR, it had the TV, and it had a little empty slot here. And I remember we put the Nintendo in there, and we parked on my grandmother's driveway Christmas night, and we played it for hours. And my cousin came out, and we were just freaking chilling out in the van, listening to Ozzy, and we were playing we were playing Mario Brothers 3. It was, I'm sorry, but nothing tops that. That's a memory that I'll forever hold in my heart and remember, and hopefully pass on to my kids when the PlayStation 20 comes out. GameCube. Cool story about this. So the GameCube actually wound up being one of my favorite systems of all time. I probably have the biggest library of GameCube games in the hundreds. I just became obsessed with it. But at the time, I remember seeing it as a preview display. You could play it at Walmart, and I was playing Luigi's Mansion and Wave Racer or Wave Runner, and a couple others. But I believe it was a Star Wars game too. But I was playing it, and I just fell in love. And I remember every time my dad would go to shopping at Walmart, I'd be back there playing it. So my dad's like, I know what you want for Christmas. I'm like, yeah. It was impossible to find. I could not find it. It was nowhere to be found. Lo and behold, Christmas morning comes, and my dad's like, we couldn't get the GameCube. We wanted to get it for you, but we couldn't get it. And I had been doing research, and I tried, and this and that and the other thing. So, almost kind of like the NES story. So, my dad's like, yeah. He's like, well, instead of that, he's like, we went online and we ordered you some other stuff. We're not saying it's going to be comparable to a GameCube, but we hope you like it. And he had it wrapped in a box. And I opened the box and it said Finger Hut. If you don't know what that is, that's like it's like an online, well, not online, but you order it through a catalog. Now you can do it online, but you ordered it through a catalog, and you could buy overpriced items that were like 10 times the price, like $130 games instead of $59. But they had them. And I opened it up, and it was the GameCube. And I flipped the heck out. And actually, another story that connects with that, the same thing, is the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was the same thing. It was through Finger Hut. And Finger Hut had it, and my poor parents paid out the roof for it, but I got it. And I remember playing Sonic Adventure all Christmas. My cousins came over, and we were playing that, and I'm still blown away from Sonic Adventure. I mean, like, I loved the controller of the Dreamcast. I loved how it had the UMD where you put it in the controller and you had a little screen, and cool system ahead of its time, definitely. I loved the Dreamcast. I had a lot of fun through the years playing with that, even though the life of it was cut short because of PlayStation. Christmas handhelds through the years from my grandmother. These weren't like gaming systems, but what they were is that we would go to the mall, and they would have handhelds that you would put like the camera batteries and like the flat batteries, and you would just play them. And they had like the LCD screen that you had to tilt. and it was hard to see it. And she just collected me them, and every Christmas she would get me like a whole mess of them, and I had walls of them. I had a little racing game. I had a game with a dinosaur where like the eggs would drop and the dinosaur would try to catch them. They were just little various handhelds, but they were cool, and I wanted to include them in this because I thought that was awesome. My grandma was an awesome person. Both of my grandmothers, they got me games through the year, and this was on my dad's side and his mom, and she would buy me the handhelds. I had a whole mess of them. A Panasonic 3DO Christmas, that was a surprise. Man, I wanted this freaking thing when I seen it. I was like, I wanted this more than I remember when I seen the TurboGrafx 16 and the PC CDI and the Sega Saturn. This was more. That's why I wrote this down on my list. This was like, I was begging for this thing. And it was funny too. I would always like talk to my dad every 2 minutes about, oh yeah, the Panasonic 3DO is awesome, you know. Where else could you go and play The Seventh Guest, even though I had it on my PC? But, and Myst. A lot of the PC CD-ROM games that you could play on the Panasonic 3DO, but it was cool, because you had it on your TV. So Panasonic 3DO Christmas was awesome. Game Gear Christmas, that was a fun Christmas. The Game Gear had been out for a while, and I never was able to get it. And so I was looking, you know, and calling up stores, and oh, you know, we're sold out, blah, blah, blah. So we had Christmas at my uncle's house, well, my grandmother's house, but my uncle was staying with her at the time, and a lot of my cousins. And we went in a couple days early, Christmas, or was it Christmas Day? No, might have been Christmas Day. It was either the eve or it was Christmas Day. But anyway, we walked in and we were getting ready, and my grandma was making dinner, and the whole house smelled good. I remember she had a big moose head on the mantle. And we walked in, and my uncle was just willy-nilly sitting on the couch playing this thing, and I was like, what is that? Because I didn't know he was into video games. And he's like, oh, this is this cool thing I got. He goes, it's called the Game Gear, Sega Game Gear. And I'm like, and he was playing Sonic the Hedgehog on it. He was like, but you know, he's like, it's expensive. He's like, I'm really not into it. He's like, I'm going to bring it back. He's like, I don't have enough time to dedicate to this thing. And it's eating up a lot of my spare time. Long story short, my dad made a deal with him and he bought it from him. And my dad came home later that day here from my grandma's and gave it to me and said, Merry Christmas. It was awesome. It was cool. So that you know, these are things that you remember. PS1, best Christmas ever. I put in parentheses, diabetic shock. Wow. This actually happened. This is weird because there's a story behind this. So, I got the PlayStation 1 for Christmas. I was begging for it for months. Just begging, stomping my feet, throwing, busting shit. And, nah, that's not true. I never was like that. But my dad and my parents were really into video games too, so they were like right into it with me. Like, I remember when the Super Nintendo, when Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past came out, it's still to this day, it's one of the only very few games that my dad played straight through with me. He couldn't wait to turn the system on and play it. Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, he was into that on the PC. Because believe it or not, before anything, I was a PC gamer. I used to build PCs. I still do. I still have a laptop repair center and everything here that I do in a spare time. But I would get video cards and soundboards and Sound Blaster and freaking memory and build computers up just basically for gaming. We used to play Quake, Unreal Tournament, Doom, Myst, everything. So whatever was like top notch of the day. Phantasmagoria, Monkey Island, Full Throttle. A lot of LucasArts and Sierra games, Interplay. Remember Interplay? Sure. Police Quest, King's Quest. So my dad was into it, and that helped out a lot. But he got me the PlayStation 1, and if you remember this, it came with a demo disc with like different games on it. Loaded was one of them. A crap load of others. I think NHL. And what I would do is I would play the demo because I didn't get any games with it. I later had gotten Tekken and Battle Arena Tashiden and Wipeout. I would play the game, the demo disc, and play it, and play it, and play it, and play it, and play it. And I remember Christmas Day, I played it so long, and I have diabetes. And I had felt my sugar going low, and I was getting cold sweats and dizzy, and I didn't care, and I kept playing, and I passed out. And then I actually got up, and I ran down the hallway into my front door, right through it, into my bedroom door. Boom! I split my lip open. My dad had to pour maple syrup and sugar down my throat, and almost getting ready to call 911, but I finally had come out of the low sugar shock. Funny thing of it is that when the PlayStation 2 came out, the same freaking thing happened. I was playing, I don't know, Tekken Tag Tournament 2 or SSX or whatever I was playing, and the same damn thing happened. Same thing. PlayStation 3, I got a surprise because I had no idea I was getting it. It was the, well, my original PlayStation 3 had just burnt out, and then my dad got me the Slim, the Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception bundle. So that was cool. That was a big surprise because I didn't know what was. And I was like, oh wow, I wonder what that big gift is. And my dad's like, yeah. He's like, what we did was we got a home. I don't know what he said. We got a whole bunch of little things for you, and we put them all in one big thing. And it was the PS3 Slim. Super Nintendo Christmas. That was an amazing Christmas. Playing Super Mario World with one of my best friends at the time, my cousin. Remember hooking it up downstairs at the time because we had a spare TV down there and playing Super Nintendo all day, and that was like mind blowing. And then I have here two things left. I have PC Tandy from Radio Shack with Turbo Boost. One of my early computers, but the cool thing about it is that when I got it, I don't know if it was on Christmas Day, but it was around the holidays. It might have even been Black Friday because I remember they had a sale. But playing that, hooking my PC up and just playing, like my cousin came over with Monkey Island 1 and 2, and to this day that's like one of my all-time favorite franchises. Later on I remember buying Myst, and when the CD-ROM had first come out because it was the floppy drive. And then later the CD-ROM came out, and I remember when sound first came out. It was Sound Blaster with Dr. Spadeso and the Talking Parrot, and sound was mind-blowing back then. It was like, oh my god, there's sound coming out of here. That was mind-blowing. And then if you remember later on, we got the MMX Chip, which was supposed to be like this amazing graphics card. Way before Voodoo came out, if you remember Voodoo. Turok, Doom, Wolfenstein, Zool. Tons and tons of games. Great memories. Again, memories that I'll never forget. But my all-time number one is the Mortal Kombat Trilogy for PlayStation 1. Please tell the story. It's funny. Okay. I have an obsession with my games. I have in the high thousands. I mean, literally thousands. I had a guy that used to work for GameStop, and he came over here one day because I knew him personally, and we would get together and do rock band and karaoke, and he said, I had a music guy that told me this too, he worked at a music store. Because those binders that hold like 300 music CDs, I have about 70 of them. I have walls of them. And I have the same for video games. This guy that worked at GameStop says, you have more games than my store has. So, and I know what every single one was, and I don't remember what had happened because we were getting ready to move at the time, or we thought we were getting ready to move, and whatever happened, but I lost the game. It was my all-time favorite game. I must have spent thousands of hours. It was the Mortal Kombat Trilogy for PlayStation 1. I bought it in Toys R Us the day it came out. It had all the characters and all the stages. Actually, if you could own one Mortal Kombat game, that's the one to own. I mean, for the old school 2D style game before all the 3D stuff came out. Mortal Kombat Trilogy was freaking amazing on the PlayStation 1. It still is. And it was gone. I had lost it. And it was gone for a long time. And I guess what happened was it was hard to find. And I actually see on eBay the prices really went up. Like, wow, this is like in demand. Like, this is a collector's item. Like, one guy wanted, I don't know what he wanted, but I told him to go screw. He's like, and I met a guy on Craigslist, and I was like, wow. I was like, I didn't realize that this game was so sought after. I said, just to think I had it. So, so my girlfriend, she's very good at this. She must have heard me saying this through the months and or however long it was gone. And I mean, I had other Mortal Kombat games that I was playing. So she says, well, I'll try to help you find it. Time passed, and I says, you're not gonna find it. So Christmas Day comes, and she says, I got your last gift for you, and it was a box like a shirt box, like that you would put clothes in. And I opened it up, and inside that box she had another box. And then inside that box she had another box. And I remember her brother was there, and he goes, what the heck is this all about? He goes, what am I missing here? He goes, what are you trying to do to this poor guy? And Michelle's cracking up laughing, my girlfriend, and she's like, just wait. I'm like, dude, this ain't funny. I mean, she really, literally must have found every kind of box the next size down. And then finally, it was like this little tiny box, and then I opened that, and then it was like a mailer, like an envelope mailer. I'm like, oh my God, this is, I give up, you know. And finally, I open it, and there it is, Mortal Kombat Trilogy. I mean, mint condition. This guy, it was mint condition. She got a really good deal on it. And it had the booklet, had the manual in it and everything. The CD, I looked at the back of the CD didn't have a mark on it. That's Christmas memories for you. That's my special this year. There's so many more. I mean, I could keep going on and on about any system. I could talk about the Game Boy Advance. I could talk about the original Game Boy, the TurboGrafx 16, the Famicom, the Intellivision, my Coleco. Most of them are Christmas stories, but there's so many of them. But those are the ones that stood out for me. Thank you for joining me this year. Thank you for joining me all year if you stay tuned to my channel. If you're new, welcome aboard. That is my Christmas special for 2015, one of my Christmas specials. As you know, I've been putting out these Christmas specials all month, and then we have the year-end series at the end of the month and in January, and you definitely want to check that out. Take care, everybody. Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays.